I know that not all of you are percussionists. However, learning from professional musicians, regardless of what instrument they play, is always valuable. So, Mr. Durrett's going to introduce, and then we're going to get going.
Sometimes you have situations present themselves, and you want to take advantage of this. Ms. Davila is here because she's judging the CBA State Marching Band Championships at the Air Force Academy tomorrow. She graciously changed her travel to the day earlier so she can come in and work with you guys today. So I appreciate that. This is Ms. Julie Davila. She's on the faculty at Middle Tennessee State University. She is a professional musician in Nashville in all percussion areas. I asked her to come today for a couple of reasons. Number one, she's a marvelous player. You're going to get to hear that too. But I want her to share with you how she got where she is. She is, in the percussion world, she is on top of her game. She's the incoming president of the Percussive Art Society, which is the most influential organization in our world. She will lead it. She is one of the few women that has made it this far, and I want you to hear how she got there. Okay, this is a career thing, right? And it doesn't have to be music, it can be anything. But in terms of how you can get there. So I want to introduce you, please welcome Ms. Julie Davila.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. When Mr. Durrett asked me if I would consider changing my flight, I was like, yes! Come in and play for some of you guys, and of course anything he's involved in, that's a yes for me. So we've known each other for a couple decades, many.
How many?
And so dear friend, you guys are so lucky to have him here, which is amazing. So yeah, like he said, this is kind of a little bit more of a career thing, and I'm gonna actually, hopefully, we'll have some interaction where I want to ask you guys some things, maybe about some goals that you have, and just talk a little bit about that as well. But I think I'll start just real quick, just doing a quick overview of kind of what my life looks like on a day-to-day. And I'm going to play a few different instruments and talk about some of those as well. And hopefully, even if you're not a percussionist, I try to choose some music. I have very little time to practice before today, so I tried to find some music that I could put together in about a week, but also that I think that you would enjoy the program for too as well. So yeah, I live in Nashville. I've lived in Nashville, outside of Nashville, for about 30 years. Basically, I would be what you consider a freelancer, which means I have about 5 or 6 different things that I would call what I do in revenue streams, money streams that help me make a living. Getting to do one of the most fun things in the universe is play percussion. So I do teach at Middle Tennessee State. I'm adjunct faculty there. So what does that mean? That means I teach and write and coordinate everything for the drum line. Anybody? Who's our drummer, percussionist in here? Drum line. All right. Nice. So at Middle Tennessee, for instance, this year we have about 57 in the drum line. So we have 12 snares, 7 tenors, 7 basses, 9 cymbals, and about 15 or 16 in the front ensemble. And that's a pretty normal size. Sometimes we have 8 basses. I like to march odd numbers, so I like 5s and 7s. But and we've had up to 24 cymbals at one point, about 6 years ago. So it's a little bit of a beast, that college program. So I run that in the fall. And I also teach a lot of lessons, a lot of applied lessons to music and percussion majors. So I'll have anywhere between 12 to 21 private lessons during the week. And I teach everything. I teach some drum set, I teach marimba, I teach snare drum. So it's really a lot of fun. I teach all ages. I do a composition class with the graduate students for marching percussion composition. And then that kind of brings me to the other aspect. So I've kind of fallen into this marching percussion genre really through a lot of what Mr. Durrett started, our grandfather of indoor percussion over here. He started a circuit in Chicago, right? Is that where that began years and years ago?
A long time ago.
Yeah, and I started taking my drum lines. This is how we met.
Yep.
I started taking my drum lines from Nashville to Chicago to compete in these competitions, and that's where we started to get to know each other, and then that's what turned into kind of WGI percussion today, if you know that circuit at all, indoor circuit. So I taught high school. I taught a competitive high school program for about 15 years, and so I learned how to write for marching percussion during that time. And so we started competing. I was doing a lot of writing. There's a company called Roll-Off Productions, which I think you're playing some of their charts. If you look at that new Christmas thing you guys just got, that's Roll-Off. That's a percussion company that just publishes percussion music, marching and concert. And when I moved to Nashville, the presidents of that company were starting the company. They literally came up with their logo on a napkin at like a Denny's. You guys have Denny's out here? Like a breakfast.
Yeah.
So I think those are fun stories. They came up with their logo. And then what did they do? The first thing they did is they reached out to colleagues and friends, and we'll talk about that later too, about how you can collaborate, and that really is an enriching experience. And so they reached out to myself. My husband's a percussionist as well, and they started with this small core group of people in Nashville that could write, and they asked us to write for their company, and then they started publishing, and they became worldwide great company. So now I do a lot of writing for concert and marching percussion. I do a ton of judging. I'm gone almost every weekend judging around the country. This summer I had the opportunity to judge what's called the World Music Conference, and it was in the Netherlands. And we judged for about 5 days, groups from all over the world, Poland, China, Taiwan, a lot of Dutch groups, a lot of German groups. So I've had some really unique life experiences through starting in 5th grade on percussion. I always look back at that and go, wow, what a cool life I've gotten to live, because I started in 5th grade in band. Band was like my identity at school. You guys ever feel like that? Like band is your identity? It was where, I was a decent student, but that's what got me to school every day, is I couldn't wait to be a part of anything that was music. If I could sign up for as many jazz band, music, everything, I was like, if I could live in the band room, every once in a while I had to go to English. But no, go to those classes. But I was just kind of eating up with it, and then I decided to major in music. What else do? I play in a percussion trio with 2 other women. Do I have any female percussionists in the room? Wow! Yeah. Woo-hoo. All right. So I play in a percussion trio with 2 other women, which is super fun. And we've traveled the world. We've been all over the place. France and Brazil and where are the cool spots? We went to Peru a couple years ago. We've had a lot of neat opportunities in that regard too. So really, really enriching experiences. What else do I do? I don't know. Writing, playing, teaching, publishing, judging, all those things. So, and doing things like this today. So I'm really excited to be here. And we can talk about. We do a Q&A if you want to know anything more specific. Basically, I started in 5th grade band. My brother played saxophone, and I went to his concert in like 4th grade, and I was like, all I did was watch the drummers and the percussionists. I was like, that's what I want to do. I knew right away. And I had some really great experiences in middle school and high school. Went to the University of North Texas for percussion studies. Majored in music education. And then I met my husband there, and he got the job at MTSU, and that's how we moved to Nashville. Oh, I would say another really cool experience. I haven't done a ton of it. I've probably done 8 to 10 of these over a 20-year span. Is in Nashville. They started bringing a lot of video game recording projects to Nashville. So I played on about 8 or 10 video game recordings. A lot of times we don't know what we're recording because there's non-disclosures. They won't tell us the project names, or they have fake project names. But I know I've done at least one Mario and one kind of Star Wars type game, and that's been really fun experience. One of those experiences was like a 3-day recording project, and they had already recorded the orchestra, and they're just bringing in like 4 percussionists. So we got to go in for like 3 days straight and just put all the percussion to the game. So we were playing big taiko drums. When you think about those video games and how important the music is, that was one of the coolest life experiences too. So you just never know. Did I ever dream when I was in 5th grade, trying to learn my E-flat scale, that that was going to lead to some of the life experiences that I've had. Absolutely not. But I just kept following it. It was like that rope. I just kept going, I wonder where that's going to take me. I love this. I wonder where this is going to take me. I love this, you know. And it's lots of this, lots of zigs and the zags, but I just couldn't be more content and feel more blessed. And I just wish that for all of you, you know, when you're sitting there, you just like your whole life in front of you, you know. And we'll talk a little bit about that kind of stuff, but you know, anything's possible. 100% anything is possible. Anything. Inside the box, outside the box. Anything is possible. And I hope that, you know, in this little 50 minutes that we're going to share today, that there might be one little nugget of inspiration that you can look at and take with you as you continue to do that. Okay? So why don't I'll play a little bit.
Yay.
Who do you want me to play first?
The
The marimba first. Okay. So this piece I'm going to play is called Full Moon Rising. I have no idea why I titled it that, but
I should tell you a minute real quick. She was talking about Brandon. She's got 76 published pieces right now. So
I didn't even know that.
I counted this one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 76 up right now. So
Let's see, I think I brought, so I brought a couple things. I think you guys are some of you guys are just getting into 4 mallets, right? Anybody doing 4 mallets here? Okay. A little bit. All right, so I've written 2 books. This is actually a new book that just came out, and probably the easiest of the 2. This is a great starter for 4 mallets. So, in fact, you know what? I'll give this to you so you can have it in your program.
That'd be great.
These came out right at the beginning of COVID, so it's just now starting to get traction, meaning people are starting to play it. But those are great starters. And then this is a book that came out about 10 years ago, and it's got 10 4-mallet solos as well. That's got 10 in it. And it's got 2 vibe solos in that too. And 3 or 4 of these have been selected. The state of Texas has a very their selection process for what they require students to do for all state and mid-state and that kind of stuff is very streamlined. And so every year they pick a 4-mallet piece, a 2-mallet piece, snare drum, timpani, all that. So I've been fortunate enough that 3 or 4 of these have been selected in various years for their all-state marimba. That means every student in the state of Texas that wants to try out for all-state is going to play that piece, which is pretty cool. Most of my friends that teach in Texas, they're really funny because they're like, you know, there'll be programs that like 30 percussionists are trying out for all state, you know, in a program, and they're like, I love you, but I'm so sick of this song because I have to hear it 30 times a week for every lesson. But anyway, I've been super fortunate in that those have been selected. So this one is called Full Moon Rising, and it was one that was on the Texas list a few years ago. instrument that I've just become passionate about. And I kind of tie in a little bit of life story with it too. But so here's my life story. I should have said this in my opening statement. The other just super amazing thing that I've had the opportunity to be in this world is a mom. I have 2 kids. Aww. So that's my absolutely number one most precious thing. And I never thought I would. I was always so career driven. Career. So I'm really glad that we decided to have kids because it's been amazing. They are now in their 20s, and I've got our oldest one lives in Chicago and doing amazing, cool things in Chicago. And our youngest one's living in LA, and she's an actress. And this is part of my story, is she was doing a lot of voiceover in Nashville when she was very young, a lot of things for Disney. And she kept getting, the producers were like, wow, she's really good. She needs to meet this person and this person. So we started this whole big journey. And it just seemed like for years and years, she was doing, really neat projects, and everybody was like, that's a strength. This is a really strength. And she did a workshop in Nashville from a manager from Los Angeles. And after the workshop, it was a Saturday, Sunday. On Monday, he called me, and he's like, okay, what's her story? How serious are you about, or how serious is she, I should say, about, maybe doing an actress, doing film and TV? And he's like, I want to represent her, but if I do that, that means, your family's got to be ready to go. Like, if I send her an audition, and she gets a call back, you got to jump on a plane on Thursday, you're committed to doing that. So we took some time as a family, talked about it. She wanted to do that, so we started that journey. So her junior year of high school, she came to us and said, I really just want to, she had done a lot of videotaping and sending in auditions via tape. This was 8 years ago, and getting really close on a couple big projects, but not getting it. So then she was like, I really want to just move to LA and get started. I feel like I need to be there. And so we let her finish her senior year online. She only had 3 classes left to take her senior year, and she and I moved to LA and got started. Well, as a musician and a teacher, I took 2 years off of teaching and 2 years off of a lot of playing. And I said to myself, all right, I don't want to be stagnant for 2 years. I don't want to not touch an instrument. So what can I do? I've always been interested in this instrument I'm going to show you. And I was like, wait, I can take this anywhere. I can practice in my car. I can practice in her apartment. I can do whatever. This is the hippest, coolest instrument ever. And I've always wanted to spend time learning it. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do in my 2 years. Because I thought about, maybe I'll learn a language. I'm like a growth mindset person. I always never want to stop learning. It's what can I do? I want to keep learning new things. So I picked this instrument up. So I'm going to ask you, what's the name of this instrument? Tambourine. Tambourine. Kind of. It's kind of a tambourine. It is from that same family. A tambourine is called is really a version of what we call a frame drum. So it has a frame, but most tambourines, some don't have heads on them, but a lot of tambourines have heads on them, and if they have a head on them, then they're really from the frame drum family, okay? And there's lots of different versions of this. Can you hand me that tambourine in the back on the table, somebody? I want to see if you can pick up on one of the... Okay, so this is a headless tambourine. I think I had a head on it at one point. So what do you see? Any differences besides the head?
Lots of more civil things.
On this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, more jingles, right? What else about the jingles?
They're smaller.
Yeah, so these are smaller. These are larger. Ooh, what's the difference in the tone color?
It's so lower.
Lower, exactly. Good ears. It's darker. You hear the difference? So the alloy plays a part of that. This is a silver, and this is a bronzy gold. But these are hand hammered. Do you see this? Mm-hmm. Feel it, Paul. It's Paul, right? Yeah. Feel the difference in the weight. So here's the tambourine, right?
Oh.
All right, anybody else want to feel that? Yeah. Pass that around for a minute. Right? Oh, we're going this way. Oh wait, we should probably, yeah. Okay, that's good. I forgot about like the flu is going around and all that kind of stuff. So I forget about that. But anyway, you got it, right? Some of you guys, huge difference, right? Usually when people pick up this, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like so heavy. So this is called a rick. R-I-Q. It's called a rick. Its origin is Middle Eastern, and you don't actually play it like a tambourine. So I had a little play on. I was going to play with it today, but that takes like hooking up a special mic. And honestly, my rick chops are a little not great right now because you have to stay at it every day, and I haven't been able to do it every day. There's a couple different ways that you could play this rick. And one is what's called in the soft position. So I'm going to hold it like this. And I'm actually going to play with all my fingers. So it's like, so you can do all kinds of cool little like muted sounds, open tones. I'm using my fourth finger, which that's, if you guys try to like, put your hand on the ground right now and move your index finger, like you're gonna do this, just move it. Now, put all your fingers down and try to move your fourth finger.
So hard.
It's so hard, right? That's the one. And guess what? That's what you have to develop.
Oh my
I can do like five. These are like percussionists. What rudiment is that?
god. Move it.
5-stroke roll. With a little accent on there. I can do a single stroke forward. Single 7. That's a little uneven, right? So that's kind of a cool little flam. So that takes a little, like my chops are not up right now on that, because I haven't really worked that out. And then the other way is called cabaret style. And remember how heavy this was? So when you learn to play cabaret style, you got to kind of hold it with 2 fingers and balance it. And that just takes a lot of time for that to feel, that amount of weight to feel comfortable. Remember that fourth finger that's hard to move? I'm now going to use that over here on my jingle. And I'm going to use these 3. Little hair test. Right? So you can play the jingles this way. And then the head, I'm going to do, so I'm going to use the middle of the head, the rim, and the jingles and create some grooves. So there's this there's a little Middle Eastern groove that's pretty standard, and it's that. So that's the rick. Pretty cool, huh? That is like so basic. It's like a little drum set in your hand, really, I think. It's got all kinds of cool possibilities. And I am a beginner. I will say, I am definitely a beginner on this instrument. If you Google good rick players, R-I-Q, you're going to just see mind-blowing stuff. It's super fast, intricate things. Like I said, I'm a life learner. I like to grow and learn. I'm hoping this next summer to go to an intensive, like a 3-day intensive with some great players to learn more. But it's endless, and I've enjoyed learning. I've learned a lot of different time signatures. Like they operate in 7s and 5s and different things. So I've really grown in my music making just by doing this. And here's what's kind of funny is I said I could take this anywhere. My 2 years in LA, most of the time I practiced in the car while my daughter was in acting class. So I'd drop her off at acting class. I'd usually go get a Starbucks, and I'd sit in my car and watch videos and take notes and do that. You should have seen all the looks I got from everybody like passing by there. What's going on in the car over there? But it was so fun, and it just allowed me the opportunity to dive into something I normally wouldn't have time to dive into. Any questions about the Rick? Yeah.
So like if you're playing like a song, do you ever like switch the way you hold it? Can you say how you hold it? Like,
Absolutely. You have to switch in the middle of it, which can be tricky.
you like switch?
Whoa.
Yeah. So usually I do something. So I kind of work at it. It's just a really quick little switch, and figure out a couple sounds that you can use as transition sounds, and then switch it. That's a great question. Oh, awesome. Any other questions about the Rick? There's also a version of that, and I can't remember the name of it right now. If I think of it, I'll send it so you guys can look it up. It's a smaller frame drum. It's like about this big, about 6 inches, and no jingles. And literally the stuff they do with that is insane. It's crazy. That might be my next. But I'm so beginner right now on this. I've got plenty to do. But it's fun to find those things, you know. This is about a $400 instrument, by the way, just to let you know.
Whoa.
Wow.
The first one I bought, where I was practicing my car all the time, I bought like a $60 one, like just a starter. And then I fell in love with it, and I started performing a little bit with it with my trio. And I was like, I gotta have some good sounds, I gotta invest. And so one of my birthdays, that's what I asked for. I had to contribute a little bit. But, so that's been really fun, and I think that's what's so fun about music, you know. I came into my music career, I didn't even know I was going to be a career, I was just in band. The first thing I started on was drum set, and then I transitioned into more snare drum, and I remember my teacher, I had a private teacher, and I was playing a lot of drum set, and I played a lot by ear, and he was like, you got to learn to read. And then he was like, you gotta learn your rudiments. And I was like, oh, you know, you gotta learn your scales. And that was, all that stuff was like, I just want to do that for a while. But it's because it's what you're good at is usually what you want to do, right? So here's what happened, is I did drum set and snare drum all through high school. I didn't hardly touch a keyboard instrument. And unfortunately, my band director never made me do that. He just kept letting me do things I was good at. Then I got to college, and I was like, I'm going to major in this. And like, well, you got to learn to play that instrument. And so I drug my feet on it for a little bit. I had, hot cross buns is not fun. Twinkle, twinkle, little star is not fun when you can do a lot of, fun stuff. And you got to, but I did it. And I started falling in love with it. It's just like anything else. There's a little bit of part in the beginning where it's a little bit tedious, and you just feel like you're just slugging through it. And it's not as fun, but just like anything else, when you get past that, there's a point there you just start having fun with it and loving it. And it's like, and you see those small wins add up. Small wins add up, and all of a sudden you're decent, right? And then that motivates you to do more. And so I fell in love with this instrument my sophomore year in college. Freshman year, I was in the hot cross bun stage. Mm-hmm. I still got better, but I didn't get exponentially better. My sophomore year I had a teacher that really motivated me, and I fell in love with it. And then 2 years later, we have this Percussive Art Society that Ward Durrett was talking about, and it's an international competition. 2 years later, I competed in that and this. And here's my first year of competition in that. I came in 8 out of 10. Awesome. I hit so many wrong notes, I probably played like I did right at the beginning, right for you guys. And I played in front of me. Howard Stevens was one of my judges. But I saw everybody else play, and it motivated me. And I was like, okay, I know I've got that in me. And I went back the whole next year, worked really, really hard, went back to that competition, and I won the second year. You know, and that was an instrument that I didn't start until I was about 19, maybe 20. So that can just show you. I mean, and your interests might change. You know, you're gonna evolve and grow and so just kind of just let it fall. If you really love it, just follow it. Just keep following it. You know, just keep working at it. 2 rudiments. You're between. Pick a rudiment. Paradiddles or flam taps.
What's that?
Paradiddles. If you raise your hand.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any flam tappers in the room? Anybody want to come play some paradiddles?
Do it.
Come play some paradiddles. Greg? Greg, you want to play that snare? You're tall enough to play that snare. All right, so you know what? Everybody in the room can. Let's have Greg play some paradiddles first, and then I'm going to teach paradiddles to everybody. Because actually, paradiddles are a familiar pattern in a lot of things. However fast, speed doesn't matter. Just whatever you're comfortable with. Do you teach full down tap up at all? Do you teach upstrokes?
I teach upstroke.
Okay, so do you know where your upstrokes are in that?
Yeah.
You're playing upstrokes, so I see that you're doing it. Where are they? Which note of 4?
So right, left, and then it's right, left, right. Left player.
Yeah. Okay, so percussionists, you guys know the upstrokes? They're key to so much. All right, good job. Thank you so much. Thanks for playing. Anybody else want to play? Yeah, come on. So just for you percussionists in the room, here, just a quick, if your band students are just let me do a little nerdiness right now. I get really nerdy on stuff like this. Percussionists, there's the upstrokes are, here's my phrase that I use a lot. End the bead where you need it next. All right? I love all these head shaking. Yes, end the bead where you need it next. So what's great about your upstrokes, they're paramount, right, to getting those accents. Because what I'm doing is I'm sending my upstroke up so that when I need an accent, it's there. Right? And it's like, oh, it's in place. If I didn't have an accent, or if I didn't end up, then I don't have the ability to play as strong an accent. Right? If I end up here, right? Then I can end I can get a good accent without no extra motions that would, not going. And the same thing is with a downstroke. Everybody say downstroke. So those are your 2 transitions. So upstrokes transition you from soft or unaccented to accented, right? Soft to accent. Soft to accent. That's why that second note of the paradiddle, it's a soft note, but it's leading to an accent. Same thing, downstroke. If I want to play loud to soft or accented to unaccented, if I end my beat here, is it going to be easy to play soft from here? No, I'm not going to really be able to play soft. It's going to be a struggle. What about here? Soft? No. So my downstroke gets my beat from loud in the best position to play soft. Down. Right? So the upstroke and the downstrokes are really important mechanics to develop, and they also help with your flow. So like if I'm You ever see anybody try to go fast and they're like, there's like no flow to it? You know, it's because they're struggling, they're kind of going against like resistance because their beads aren't going where they need them, right? So if I hopefully I didn't look too labored, right? It looked kind of smooth. And so those upstrokes, doing them slow will transition through time fast. Right? I'm not making any changes. Just a little speed. I'm coming down a little bit because the faster you go, you want to reduce your distance a little bit. But that's the only change. But that's me spending 1,000,000 hours on fundamentals, right? So flam rudiments, if I could just do a mini clip. Every flam rudiment is this.
Before?
I've seen a lot of eyes just go to you right there. Okay, so do you guys do that in your drumline warm-ups? Accent tap, bucks, what do you call it?
Accent tap.
Accent tap. When you're practicing accent tap, you are literally, this goes for wind players too, fundamental things, long tones, right, buzzing your mouthpieces, air, breathing exercises, all those, what we might consider simple things, are training for advanced skills. 100%. You can't do advanced skills without all the fundamental simple. And I resist using the word simple, right? Because, like, I tell my students all the time, like, simple intellectually is different than simple, like, physically making it happen at a high level. Like, this intellectually, what kind of notes am I playing? Rhythm. 8 notes. Intellectually, it's kind of easy, right? Everybody can play 8 notes, right? And now I'm a little bit of down, up, down, up. Up, down. So percussionist, one thing I want you to listen for is I'm striving always for the same color, tone, sound. Every time I play an unaccented note, right hand or left hand. You have to be ambidextrous to be a good percussionist, right? So if you'll listen to my accent tap, you hear, right, pretty consistent. Now, what does that mean in all your flam rudiments? So I'm going to play flam accents. Do you guys, anybody know what a flam accent is? Percussionist? Most people, when they say flam accents, they think it's just accent of flams. It's the only rudiment that doesn't sound, one of the only rudiments that doesn't sound in the name what it really is. But flam accent is triplets, basically, like a 3-note figure. All right, so here's a big tool I use. I separate my hands. Put my left hand on the rim, so I'm doing this. So I found out, my right hand plays this rhythm. And now I can watch my accent. You see my accent taps? Accent tap up, accent tap, tap up. And I can listen to that. How do I sound? How's my accuracy? Are my all the same? Pretty close to all the same, would you say? And then I figure out my left hand. So basically, I'm doing this. version of that, your accent tap. It's just a version, a little different rhythm. So when I'm working on my rudiments, I do a lot of hands separate because however fast I can go is how good I'm going to play. Right? So those basics really do matter. So every single flat rudiment, flat paradiddles, you know we just did paradiddles? Let me teach the group paradiddles. Right? Everybody, band kids, it's kind of fun. Paradiddles are just a pattern, right? So it's a right, left, right, right. So the word para is for singles, a set of singles. Para. Para is a singles. Diddle is a double. So let's go. Paradiddle. Ready and go. Paradiddle. One more time off the right. Paradiddle. Then we just do that off the left. Para, a set of singles. Left, right. Diddle. Left, left. Ready off the left. Ready, go. Paradiddle. Good. One more time. Ready, go. Paradiddle. Good. String them together. One right, one left. 1, 2, ready, go. Paradiddle. Paradiddle. Good. That's a good group. Where'd you guys go? And stop. String together one more time. 1, keep it going. 2, 1, 2. You stayed with me a long time.
I did.
Boom, I saw that.
Gotta do that one more time.
We gotta do it again. I messed up.
A friend of mine, a colleague, who started a company a couple years ago, percussion company, and last year said, would you write a snare piece, concert snare piece? Come on in. And I rarely turn down those kind of opportunities. I was so busy. I was so wicked busy, and I was like, oh, I really don't have time to write this piece. But a lot of times I work better when I have a deadline than if I have just open time. You know, my husband always says, you want something done, find the busiest person in the room. You know, because like when you're busy, you guys ever feel that? Like when you're really busy, probably marching season's like that, right? You're really busy. I think there's even data that students get better scores in their classes during like marching band season. That's not the data here.
Other schools.
Other schools.
Right idea, wrong school.
You guys probably experienced this though. You're super busy. Like I'm a list maker. I make lists almost every day, and I don't do it on my phone. I do it on a piece of paper because I love the satisfaction of crossing it off. That is the best thing for your mental health. It seriously is. I recommend that you do that. Like paper list, write it down. Here's what I do I don't have many Saturdays at home, but when I'm home on a Saturday, let's say, and I've got like a list, I'm going to go to the bank, I'm going to wash my car, I'm going to return some emails, I'm going to watch a football game, go Chiefs. Sorry. They like to be told that. And so I put 10 things on the list, right? Maybe 12 things on my list. A lot of times I'll just sit at the table and I'll just spew out of my head everything I think I need to get done, and I jot it down. I don't try to put it in order, and I just get it out of my head because carrying it around it weighs on you. You guys ever try to do that? Like you have a really busy day or a really busy week, and you're trying to keep it all up here, right? So I get it out of my head. It just feels automatically better. And then I look at it and I go, okay, now I can prioritize it. What needs to be done first? I got a test in third period. That's next. So I'm going to review those note cards or whatever. So then I'll go on my sheet, and usually I'll either just number them and circle the number so I can keep track of how I want to prioritize those 10 or 12 things, right? I'm just talking about a Saturday right now, but I do this in my professional, all my responsibilities. And then when I do it, I get to cross it off, and man, that feels good. That's like, feels accomplished. And there's many times that I don't get to everything on the list. I might, at the end of the day, I had 12 things on my list. Let's say I crossed off 7, and I didn't get to 5. Then I still got 7 things done, and it still feels positive in my mental health and in my, okay, I moved forward. I moved it forward. I got 7 things done. Now those 5 get to move to my next day list, right? And I guarantee you're going to feel so much better if you can do that. There's a motivational speaker that I follow, and here's one of my favorite quotes that he says. He's like, if you shoot at nothing, you'll hit it every time. If you shoot at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Right? I love that. I've always thought about that in my career and in my day-to-day life, like those lists. If I shoot at if I don't have a list and I'm just kind of like, you know, going throughout my day and I've got 10 things and I lose track because they're all in my mind, and then I do something that I should have done first, and you know, and then all of a sudden you just feel, everything feels heavy, like, oh, I'm drowning here. I'm drowning. I have so many college students come in and say, I'm drowning. I'm spinning so many plates. I'm like, okay, let's write it out. Let's get a list. There's been a million percussion lessons that we haven't touched an instrument. It's just time management, you know? And they're heavy. Everything is doom and gloom because it's time management, you know? So I try to encourage them to like write those lists. And also small wins, they accumulate over time into big wins, right? Is there a board you can write on this?
Yeah.
So there's another book. I'm kind of a nerd, to be honest. I'm really geeky. I love coaches' books. I love motivational speakers and podcasts. Oh, I'm super nerdy. Was I always like that? No. But as I went through life, that's one of those zigs and zags I've taken. And there's a series of books by Austin Kleon, and they're like this big, like 60 pages, and they're kind of picture books. They're really great. But I wish I would have brought it with me. So he talks about small wins, and he has 3 pages. So imagine turning the page through these. So here's page 1, and he was like, here's page 2. This isn't going to be as dramatic as if I had the book. All right, now he's talking about small wins. So he said day 1, right? And he talks about day 1. You got to start something. Starting something is the hardest. That's the biggest challenge. Start it, right? When I wanted to start Rick, I bought a Rick. I started. Did I know anything? I still thought this was a tambourine, right? I didn't. I knew it was Rick, but I knew nothing. The first thing I had to do is start it, right? And I learned this much. And by the end of that first week, I learned this much, right? So in the Austin Kleon book, you turn the page, and it's like, I think he goes to a week, might be 4 pages. And all of a sudden he's got like that. I love this visual. And then he goes to a month. So this is day, week, month. And then I think the last page is year. And in the month you see like, right on time. You get it, right? And then you can imagine what the year looks like. It's like crayons, all those like, I'm just gonna fill it in. That's your year. Those are small wins. You don't start something and end up right here, day 1. That's never going to happen. But if you'll stick with something, it's dramatic. Look at that, day 1. And if what's cool is when you turn the page in the book and you go, whoa, that's progress, yes? Month, progress, year, wow, I grew, I got so much better. I'm now, like I say, I would maybe say I'm intermediate. I think I said beginner. Probably to really great players, I'm probably a beginner. I might call myself in here like an intermediate. So I grew. I had 2 years of that. I just want to encourage you, like, you know, credit yourself for the small wins. If you know 3 scales right now, C, F, and B flat, that's a start. Right? Some of you percussionists maybe that haven't played a lot of marimba yet, or a lot of keyboard yet. Start somewhere. Start with a scale. Next week, add another scale. Get some exercises on what you can do within. Just live with that scale all week. Do 3 or 4 different exercises. Play around with the scale. Next week, add another one. You know, by Christmas, you might know 4 really well, or 4 that you didn't know, right? And those are small wins. Same thing with all you win players. It's the same thing, right? You guys tend to know more melodic scales and components than some percussionists at times, but I just want to encourage you, like, the small wins matter. And I know in a social media kind of day, I think when you open Instagram or TikTok or any of those and you see somebody that you kind of admire, you're only seeing this. Particularly anybody that's a skill set, like there's some stuff on Instagram and TikTok that are not skill-based, right? But good athletes, good musicians, good singers, good whatever, right? I guarantee you there were steps before you saw what we call the highlight reel, right? And be careful, like, I want to encourage you not to compare yourself to others. That's probably, I see that in my daughters, particularly my youngest one who's in LA, who's an actress. You think it's hard being an actress in LA? Comparing yourself to others? I remember one of the first auditions out there she went to, and she got sent, it was sent by her manager, and it was like, my kids are Latinos, because my husband's Mexican. So there was 16-year-old Latino can sing, blah, 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 all these things. That's what they call them breakdowns. They come in and they're like, this is you. Mercy, you're going to book this. This is you. This is going to be amazing. You're going to go. This got you written all over it. Get in the car, we drive to the audition, and there's a line out the audition room, and they all look like her. There's 30, Latino girls, 18, and I bet they could all sing. It's but you all individually bring something unique. There's one of you. Any twins in the room? You're still your own, though, even though physically you might look like this. But guys, you're unique. You have something to offer this world. I want to encourage you not to compare yourself to anybody else. Be you. Be you. I was listening to a podcast recently, and I think it was another actress. I think it was an actress from Seinfeld. I don't know if you guys know that show. There you go. And she said, "Yeah, I don't compare myself to. I try not to compare myself to anybody because I always lose." Dude, that resonated with me. I try not to do the comparison game because I always lose. Oh, it was a musician, actually. But yeah, I was like, exactly. If we get our headspace like that, then sometimes that can just, take your special qualities and you just think, don't just try not to compare yourself to other people. Just think about that. You have something to offer. And my daughter, who's now the actress, in high school, she was very unique personality. She was very different. She was different than all the other kids. And sometimes she got made fun of and definitely bullied a lot. Had some really hard social times. And she used to say, well, weird is normal and normal is weird. She goes, I'm weird. And I don't necessarily think she needed that word, but basically she's saying, I'm my own person, I'm going to be my own person, whatever it takes, right? Now she's doing great, she's going to be in a show on Paramount Plus that's coming out in February and March. It's the Grease, prequel to Grease. So when you see that come out, and it's called Grease, Rise of the Pink Ladies, and it's 4 pink ladies, and she's one of the 4. So you guys look for her in February and March. But I'm telling you, man, it's a tough, it still is, there's a lot of social challenges in that, and a lot of it comes from social media comparisons and that kind of stuff. So I just want to encourage you to try to, just try to think, just appreciate your uniqueness and try not to get too sucked into the social media stuff. I know that's easier for me to say than it is for you who are living in that world right now, but I always feel like that's an important thing to talk about. All right.
Let's go to the drum set, shall we?
Drum set? Wake him up a little bit?
Yeah.
This is a friend of mine, a colleague of mine. I went to college with him. And he wrote a drum set book. He's a drummer or he was a drummer, I don't think they're together anymore, for Rascal Flatts. Anybody listen to Rascal Flatts? So he wrote this track, and it's just a fun little play-along track. It's really designed for students that are learning drum set to learn to play this groove that I'm going to play. And this is called a songo groove. So the actual groove is, you know, on drum set there's all different styles, right? Like, so there's rock and pop, which you guys are familiar with. Right? You hear that a lot on the radio, right? And then there might be a samba, which is like Brazilian, like style. Style. There might be like a ballad. There's all different styles. So this is songo, and it's based off of this rhythm. So that's just, if you listen to any bass players in the room? Okay, cool. So my bass drum is playing the bass guitar part, which would be. So if I was playing with a trio or a Latin group, that would be the bass part rhythmically. So when I add in all the parts, you can follow that. Everybody clap this. I put you clap the bass in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Go fast. I'm gonna push you, keep going. You get back on it? Yeah. So, that would normally be the bass guitar. Let me get a little sound check here. Addario. Yay. So that line up okay? I can hear.
No, it was fine.
All right? Okay. So, percussionist.
Yes.
What rudiment is this?
We haven't gotten that far.
Okay. 6-stroke roll. So I use that like in that little solo. You guys know those? Not really a rudiment, that's a common pattern called a circle. I use that. Nice open flat. There's a lot of rudiments I'm using there, a lot of words. I think of our rudiments as words, right? So I'm not thinking about every note I'm playing, I'm thinking about patterns. So like a 6-stroke roll, I can solo off of. So I'm thinking about words, you know what I mean? And then like a single stroke 4, I can orchestrate that. That's like a single stroke 4, just 2 basses, 2 snares. Cool paradiddle groove is just right hand on the hi-hat, left hand on the drum. It's just like rudiments and words. Yes.
Okay, I want to move on from this too. Okay, we'll address questions real quickly. So let's take everything you've done thus far, okay? All the processes and
Yeah.
things. How does that relate to somebody who doesn't want to go into music?
Okay, that's a great question. That's a great prompt. I think let's get my thoughts together here. I think because when I taught high school, most of my students didn't go into music. I had 4 or 5 every year that would, but I didn't think of those students any differently. The ones that chose to go into music and didn't choose to. I look at it like whatever you go after, there's going to be some common things, like showing up on time, right? Promptness, attendance, accountability, being a good team member. If you say you're going to learn your part for the show, learn your part for the show, right? Like, do you carry your weight? And so there's a lot of things through music that I think I was always trying to instill in all my students. And I think the other thing is just whatever you choose to do, go after it and try to do it at the highest level. Whatever that is. You're going to be an accountant, be the best accountant. Go after it. At least go after that, right? Perfection is never the end game, but it's just like getting better and better. And so I try to like just instill like things like how important it is to be a good person, a good human. I think that's one of your that's what's going to help you get a job and keep a job the most, is being just a really good person, right? I saw this, you guys know who Will Ferrell is?
Yeah.
So I think it's Will Ferrell's, I think it's a graduation speech. You guys, have you seen, like, Google that stuff. He's amazing. And there's one part, and I think it's his, because I listened to a bunch of those. I think it was at USC. And he was like, look, you got to have 2 out of the 3 of these 3 things to be successful. He was like, be good at your craft. So whatever that craft is, because probably a lot of you won't go into music. Whatever that craft is, be good at your craft. Be responsible. Right? That means you show up on time, you do the work, right? You're a good team member. And number 3, be a good person. 2 out of the 3, you'll probably be working. You'll probably be successful. Like if you really know your craft and you're a good person, right? You've got a good recipe there. So I think just being a lot of the qualities that you're going to learn being a part of this group, because teamwork is everywhere, it really is. Every job, you have to work with people. Unless, I don't know, you're a data entry person and you work at home and on your computer. I don't know, but you're still going to have somebody you interact with, probably a boss, somebody, right? So I always try to, one thing I've always tried to do, and practicing kind of, as a musician, you learn this, and it's going to be great because you guys are learning these processes too, and then take them with you into the next job. But it's steps, learning how to put steps together, and learning how to take, what you have here and build on it to the next thing and build on it to the next thing. And what's a rehearsal technique that you use? What are a couple rehearsal techniques that you guys use? And when you're doing marching band, what are some things? Do you say one more time?
I don't know.
There's something, right?
Yeah.
What about basics, marching basics? What about marching basics?
We do squares.
Yeah, you guys do some, right? So you warm up with that? Is that a part of your kind of daily? What's that?
Like breaking down our steps.
Breaking down, that's it, breaking down your steps, right? It's attention to detail. It's attention to details, sometimes repetition, right? Have you guys ever heard, let's do it again?
One more time.
I always tell my students, let's don't do that again.
Because one more time, and then we do it like 4 more times.
Some things just need repetition, right? Some things just need time invested. And that's what's great about music students is they learn how to invest time in something, towards a common goal. And I think those are all ingredients that if you just keep that in front of mind, like those are going to be hopefully things that you take with you to be a good whatever it is. When I was in, all my 5th grade through high school, I was the only female in percussion. I didn't really think about that as an anomaly really at the time. I just was like, I want to be a good percussionist. I was such a nerd, you guys would have cried, But I was just like, and I didn't want to be known for being a female percussionist. I was fighting to be recognized as a good percussionist. So that was always in my mindset. So when anybody ever told me I couldn't do something, that fueled me. I was like, all right, I'll show you. So, there, as a female, there was a lot of things I just kind of had to ignore, side comments, your girl drummer, other things. And when I went to college, when I went to North Texas, there was 150 percussion majors when I came in there, 150 at North Texas, and there were 4 female percussionists, which is pretty crazy too. And I adore this. My college professor was super tough, super hardcore. If you've ever seen the movie Whiplash, anybody seen that?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, very close to that. Not quite as bad, but very close to that. And he and his family ended up being really, really close friends now. But he said in a class of about 60 freshmen, he said, I'll never have a left-hander or a girl march in the snare line.
That's Lisa. She's both.
Me too. I'm a lefty as well. And I was like, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to be in that snare line. Took me 2 years, but I made that snare line. So there are some different things I had to push through, and still even today there's things. But I've also had some good champions in my corner. Like Ward's been an amazing person to know and has championed me, and Mark Thurston, one of our bosses, who gave me my first judging job in WGI Percussion. There were no other female percussion judges. And the fact that it was a male that believed in me was awesome. So, you just got to... Today it's a little different. You see different genders in just about everything. But I will say, hopefully just don't ever let that, slow you down if you want to go after something. And it could be the opposite. It could be a male gender going after something that seems to, in the past, maybe be a female gender occupation. It doesn't matter. We have we have a great nursing program at MTSU. We have tons of men in the nursing program. That used to typically be more like a gender. So I just think, hopefully, I think you guys are entering a world where those boundaries are breaking down a little bit. But it's been a challenge at times. But I think life is just going to throw challenges at you in general, and you can label it it's this, or you can label it as that, or you can keep going.
Good questions, you guys?
Yeah.
Maybe you want to
Anyway.
explore?
Yeah.
Who was like one of your biggest musical influences?
One of my biggest musical influences. Well, probably there was a trumpet player named Maynard Ferguson that I used to listen to in high school all the time. He was like a super high note screamer. And he came into I lived in Kansas City, that's why I was like, go Chiefs. He came to Kansas City 3 or 4 times when I was in high school, and I was always there at his concerts, front row. And here's why I loved his music. It was mainly jazz fusion. The band was phenomenal, and when he would introduce the band, almost the whole band was from the University of North Texas. And so I'd go to these concerts and I'd watch this I listened to his records. Records are those like round things. They're coming back. And then I got to go see it, and he introduced the band. It was from North Texas, so I was like, I have to go to North Texas. I have to go to North Texas. And so I ended up going to North Texas. So that was probably one of my biggest influences that really changed my trajectory or helped me. That's a great question. Yeah.
I was wondering, throughout your entire career process, did you ever think about doing something different than percussion?
Yes, that is such a great question too. I have, and I've thought about what do I want to do next. I still think about that because I'm not done, I think my course would have been counseling. That's the only second thing and then there's nothing else. One of those 2 things.